Hello, dear students. So now today we are starting the chapter number 6 of class 6 science, and the name of the chapter is Changes Around Us. Okay. Now, if you see the changes that are taking place in our surrounding, so these changes can be divided into two parts. The changes that are taking place in our surrounding can be divided into two parts. Okay, some are reversible changes and some are irreversible changes. Some are reversible changes. Okay, so some changes are reversible changes and some are irreversible changes. So the changes around us can be divided into two parts. Some are reversible and some are irreversible changes. So what are reversible changes? Reversible changes means the changes that can be reversed. Means the changes that can be reversed are called the reversible changes. Okay, now let me give you some examples for that. Okay, the examples of reversible changes. Suppose, let's say you have a piece of paper. Okay, you have a piece of paper. Let's say this is the piece of paper which you can see. Okay, now once you fold this piece of paper, let's say I have just folded this piece of paper. Okay, let's say just this way I have folded the piece of paper. Now I can bring it back into its original configuration by unfolding it. Let's say I have unfolded it, so I have brought back it into its original configuration. So this type of changes, you can say, is an example of irreversible changes, like folding of a paper. You can have many folds here. Okay, so while once you unfold it, it will again come back into its original configuration. So the folding and unfolding of paper would be the example of the reversible changes. Okay, so reversible changes are the changes which can be reversed, but irreversible changes are the changes which cannot be reversed. Suppose, let's say this is the piece of paper. Now once you tear this, let's say I have tore it. Okay, so once you tear this piece of paper, now there is no case that it can be brought back into its original shape. Okay, now you cannot stick it here. Okay, now the paper will not remain same as it was earlier. Okay, so now this becomes an irreversible, like tearing of paper, or you can say the burning of paper. Once you burn the paper, now it cannot be brought back into its original shape. So at the same time, once you tear the paper, again it cannot be brought back into its original shape. Okay, it would not remain the paper as it was earlier. Okay, once you just paste, you might be thinking that you might be thinking about pasting the paper. Once you paste it, it would not remain the paper as it was earlier. Okay, so tearing of paper or the burning of paper would be the example of what is irreversible change. So what are the irreversible changes? Means the changes that cannot be reversed back are called the irreversible changes. At the same time, the changes that can be brought back and can be reversed are called the reversible changes. Are you getting this? You might be getting. Now suppose we have many examples here. Okay, you might have seen there in your surrounding such examples also. Now suppose now let's say you have a plant here, and now this plant just growing into a tree. Now there is no you cannot change the tree again into the plant. Can you? No, it cannot be changed again into the plant. Small plant growing into a tree cannot be brought back. Okay, so growing of a plant is an example of irreversible changes. Are you getting this? Yes. Next, say suppose a child is there. Okay, a child is just growing and becoming an adult, and later on it becoming an old person. So can it be brought back again? No. An old one you cannot make it young one, and the adult you cannot make it a small child. Okay, so the growing of a child. So this is again an example of irreversible changes. Are you getting it? Now suppose you do the floor. Suppose, let's say this is the floor. Okay, you do the floor. This is the dough of the floor, and this is the dough of the floor, and you make the ball out of that, and that one ball, you just roll that ball into a chapati. This is the here you are just rolling pastry roller. With the help of the pastry roller, you are just rolling. This is the ball of the dough. Okay, you have made the ball out of dough, and this ball you are rolling and making a chapati like that. Okay, Okay, now this process is can be reversed also. You can again make you can again make the ball out of that chapati. Out of that chapati you can make a ball out of that. Again you can change it into the dough. So this is a reversible process here. Okay, now once you bake it, suppose here you have the burner or the gas chulha, whatever you call. So here once you bake this chapati, now this becomes an irreversible process. Now again the chapati that has been baked cannot be brought back into the dough. Okay, so this becomes an irreversible process after that. Okay, but the dough can be changed into ball, and the ball can be changed to can be rolled into chapati. Then again the chapati can be brought back into ball, again into dough. But once you bake the chapati, this becomes an irreversible process. Okay, so baking of chapati is an irreversible process. Okay, are you getting this? So these are some examples of reversible and irreversible changes. Now some more examples you might have seen there, like suppose you are changing the milk into curd. The milk, you are changing the milk into curd or into paneer. So again this is also an irreversible process. Now again the curd or the paneer cannot be brought back into milk. Okay, so this is again an example of irreversible changes. Okay, now suppose if I ask you, now suppose you have a fruit that is ripened. Okay, now again the ripened fruit cannot be brought back into the unripened one. Suppose you have a fruit that is ripened. Okay, so now this ripened fruit cannot be brought back into unripened one. Okay, so this is again an example of irreversible changes. At the same time, suppose you inflate a balloon. You have a balloon and you try to inflate this balloon. Okay, now after the inflation you just release the balloon and release the air from there. Now once you releasing the air from the balloon, it starts deflating, and once it deflates, then ultimately it will again come into its original shape. Okay, so inflating and deflating of balloon is again an example of reversible process. This is an example of reversible process. Okay, now suppose you have one more example like there, like suppose you have a solution of salt and water. You have, like suppose here you have a solution in this beaker, here is water and here is salt also. So this is the solution of salt plus water. Okay, can you just separate, because once you have mixed the salt and water together, can you separate it again? Yes, we have earlier discussed in the previous lecture. We can separate this by the process of evaporation and condensation. Okay, so once you go into the laboratory, so you just evaporate the water from there and you condense it, you collect the water into the another beaker, and the salt would be left over here. Okay, are you getting this? Yes, so this, from the solution of salt and water, you can separate the salt and water again. So this is an example of reversible process. Okay, but if you have the tea here, suppose let's say you have some tea leaves, and out of these tea leaves, with the help of water, you have boiled it into a tea. This is the tea now. Okay, can you brought back these tea leaves again into its original shape? No, these tea leaves cannot be brought back. Okay, so now from the solution of tea leaves and the water, you cannot once you boil it, you cannot make the tea leaves out of that again. So the tea leaves or the tea is an example of irreversible process. Okay, one more example, let me tell you. Like suppose you light a candle, the melting of a candle. Let's say suppose this is the candle, and once you light it and it starts melting, and comes into this one shape now. Okay, so can it be brought back into its original shape? No. Once the candle starts melting, the candle just becomes shorter in length. It cannot be brought back into its original position. Okay, so this is an example of irreversible process. So melting of candle is an irreversible change. But at the same time, suppose you have a pot here, and in this pot you have some wax here. Wax, you might be knowing, with the help of wax you are making the candle. The candle is being made with the help of the wax. Suppose this wax you are collecting in this pot. Suppose you have the pot here, and here the wax is there. What is here? The wax, wax. You have the wax here. Okay, now once you melt it, suppose you have just tried to melt it with the help of the burner here. Okay, you just light the from downside you on over the chulha. Okay, once you melt this wax, then again you cool it, it will come again into its original position. Yes or not? Once you melt this wax melts. Okay, so after this, once you cool it, the wax would again come into its original shape. Okay, so this is an example of reversible change. So melting of wax is an example of reversible change, but melting of candle is an example of irreversible change. Are you getting this? Getting this? Yeah. Suppose you switch on and switch off the fan. So this is an example of, tell me which one. Yes, reversible. You switch on the fan, it will start rotating. Okay, once you switch off it, it will stop there. Okay, so this becomes an example of reversible change. Okay, very good. Just note it down. We would be writing some examples what I have just right now told to you. So here I have written some examples that I have already told you. Like the example of reversible changes are like folding a piece of paper, inflation or the deflation of a balloon, solution of water and salt, melting of wax, and switch on and switch off of fan. So these are some examples of reversible changes. At the same time, you have some example of irreversible, like growing of plant into a tree, a child becomes an adult. Okay, burning or tearing of paper, baking of bread. Suppose you bake the bread and again it cannot, like chapati. Okay, then again the chapati cannot be brought back into the dough. That is dough, dough. Okay, with the help of the dough we are making ball, and with the help of the ball you are rolling the chapati. Okay, then again you are baking it. Okay, so this process cannot be reversed once you bake the chapati. Okay, are you getting this? Yeah, same. At the same time, melting of candle is also an example of irreversible. So one more example that we have already talked about, that is boiling of tea. Boiling of tea, once we boil it, again it cannot be reversed. You cannot take out the tea leaves from the boiled tea there. Okay, so these are some examples of reversible and the irreversible changes. Okay, so note down these examples. We would be discussing about the expansion and the contraction later. Okay, just note it down. So now we would be discussing about the next topic here, that is the expansion and the contraction. What is expansion and what is contraction? Okay, so the best example which I can tell you here is which is also you will found there in your NCERT book also. Okay, expansion and the contraction. Suppose you have two wheel. One you have the wooden wheel. This is the wooden wheel. Okay, let's say this is the wooden wheel. Okay, and another you have a metal wheel here. Let's say this is the metal wheel. Both are of same size. Both are of same size. Yeah, both are of same size. So this is the metal wheel, this is the metal wheel, and this is the wooden wheel. Okay, so now you want to fit this metal wheel over the wooden wheel. Will it? No, it won't. Okay, if you want to fit this metal wheel, this is the metal wheel, iron one, made up of iron you can say, and this is the wooden wheel. Okay, now if you want to fit this metal wheel over the wooden wheel, it won't. Why? Because both of these wheels have the same size. Okay, so that is why it won't. Now suppose you want to fit it over the wooden wheel, so what did you do? What did you do? So at the same time, you would have to expand this metal wheel. If you want this metal wheel to be fit over the wooden wheel, you would have to expand this metal wheel. Okay, only that then means that. So but how this metal wheel can be expanded? So can you tell me? So that could happen if you melt this. Are you getting this? Yes. So if you want to fit this metal wheel over the wooden wheel, you would have to expand it, and that would happen only if you melt this. Okay, by burning. If you melt this, then it will expand. Once you just burn it, once you just heat it, once you heat the metal wheel, it starts expanding, and once it has been expanded, it will fit over the metal wheel, sorry, wooden wheel. Okay, once it expands, it will fit over the wooden wheel. And now you will just cool it also. Okay, so after cooling down, it will stick to the wooden wheel then. Okay, tightly, it will tightly stick to the wooden wheel. Okay, because it will get again its original shape. Are you getting this? First you have to melt it. So while you are melting it, it will expand. It will, the metal wheel will expand, and then it can be fit over the wooden wheel. Now after the cooling down, this metal will start contracting also. Earlier, by heating process, it had been expanded, and once you fit over the wooden wheel, it start contracting. After the after the cooling down process, it starts contracting. So once it is contracting, it will stick to the wooden wheel. Then now you cannot separate both of these metal and the wooden wheel after that. Are you getting? So this is the best example of expansion and the contraction here. Okay, similar kind of examples you might be getting in which the farmers are using for agricultural practices also. Okay, so let's say, suppose basically they are also using these iron one instruments also. What is there? You will see there a small ring there like this, and where like this iron one, you can see there, and there you will see a wooden one handle like this. You would see a wooden handle. So this wooden handle and this ring here, both is having the same size here. So this wooden handle won't fit into this ring. So how will it fit? When you start heating it, this iron one, this is the iron portion here. Okay, once you heat this iron portion here, iron ring here, once you heat it, it starts expanding, and when it expands, as it expands, this wooden handle will fit into the ring here. Okay, so after the once it cool down, so after cooling, it contracts. Then this is expansion, this is contraction. Okay, so once you heat it, it expands. This was the earlier size of the ring. Okay, once you heat it, it will expand like this. So now the handle will fit over here. Okay, once the handle is fit, now after the cooling down process, it starts contracting, will come into the same position. Now this handle will stick to the ring now, and very tightly also. So these sort of instruments are being used by the farmers also in their field, and these are the best example of expansion and the contraction. Okay, so here the examples which you have to write. The first one is just like, first you just you can make the figures for there. So here you can write the example here. A metal wheel can be fit over the same sized wooden wheel by the process of expansion and contraction. Okay, and the second example will be there, the agricultural tools. Agricultural tools. Here also we are using the process of expansion and contraction. So this is all about in this topic, in this chapter. Would be discussing the 7th chapter after that. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you. Have a good day.